welcome to the Broker Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Delighted to be here, Mark.
Well, actually, everybody doesn't know that Aaron and Clive Kirkpatrick, have teamed up, correct?
Yes, we have.
What I've got to disclose that both of them are consulting to the YBR Group at the moment, and I'm lucky to have them, and they are proving to be a great asset to our organisation, even in the short term they've been here. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about how fucking good you are. We're here to talk about. We're here for you and I to talk about the broker market and why someone should become a broker and what's important for brokers that they should know today, and what's the future hold for brokers. But before I do that, Aaron, just give us a bit of a lowdown on where you started and where you come from and how long you've been in this industry, etc.
Sure. So I left New Zealand in 1999 and I went to the UK for 10 years and worked in banking over there, Halifax Bank of Scotland predominantly. And at the end of that period, we owned Bankwest, or Halifax owned Bankwest before it sold to CBA, and I joined Bankwest and went and ran a number of their rural branches in WA. So everywhere from Kununurra in the north down to Walpole in the south, very different to London. And then I ended up taking their WA state manager role for broker. Knew nothing about broker at all, like zero. And Kevin Matthews, who was with the AFG at the time, helped me out really and taught me a lot about the industry. And then I took their national role, started their commercial broking business, and then moved to Citi, where I ran their third party. Then I went to St. George and Westpac, and then I went to Pepper. So I've been everywhere. And
now you're out on your own
That's right.
And you're sharing your paying forward your great experience and knowledge for a fee, of course, across the country. So if you are talking to brokers now, which you do all the time, what do you say to brokers in terms of it being a career choice? Why would someone decide to either join this industry and choose it as a career, or why would someone decide to stay in this industry?
I think you've got to really love customers. I think you've really got to want to help people. If you've got a real desire to take a family and put them in a better position, take a situation for a family whether they've had some blips in the past or they're just looking to achieve their dream home, if that really drives you, you're in the right industry. Because what we effectively do is we help people achieve their dreams. And I just think it's the most underspoken about industry, because what brokers do for families is just incredible. And if that drives you and you love to see people succeed and help people succeed, this is the industry for you. If you're in it for a 9 to 5, and if you're in it just for a commission check, it's the wrong industry, because actually you won't believe in what you're doing. You've got to immerse yourself in it and become part of the fabric of it, in my opinion.
So you've had a lot of experience, particularly when you're at Pepper, or also at St. George, etc. Can you give me a description, like a narrative description of what, in your experience, has produced the best brokers? And when I say best broker, I mean the most successful brokers in terms of numbers of transactions, amount of money they make, status in the industry, longevity. What are the characteristics? I mean, apart from the fact that they want to help people, but what are the characteristics of these individuals?
I think that they treat their customers as they would their families. That's a common thread. Some of the most successful brokers I speak to never talk about a deal number. Like, they talk about the family name, and so when they converse with me about where it's up to, they'll use the family name versus the deal name, and they're heavily invested in it. Some of these brokers are writing the son's loan now that they did for their dads, and they've got this beautiful book of customers that they've looked after as if they were their own family. They're dedicated, they really care, so they know a lot about their customers. It's not just about I'm entering a name into a CRM. They actually know them and understand them, and know what their aspirations are moving forward. And so they're partnering together with that customer, to make sure that they have a successful financial future together, as opposed to a one-off transaction. I think the brokers that really get it are on the journey with the customer. It's not a set and forget transaction. And I think that if they immerse themselves into that and it drives them and it fuels them, that's probably the common thread that I see.
So I don't want to embarrass anyone, but maybe if you could, I'd be happy to do it, but probably I'd rather you do it. Maybe do you mind calling out, let's say, a male broker and then maybe a female broker,
yep,
who you would say are a benchmark as an individual, maybe someone who's been around a long time, but a benchmark as an individual in terms of their status within the industry and what they do. I mean, is there someone who comes to mind straight away? It doesn't have to be YBR or Val. I mean, it could be anyone, a Pepper person, whoever. It could be in Adelaide, Victoria. I don't care where they come from.
Yeah, I think Katrina Rowland stands out to me as probably someone that just absolutely gets it.
Or describe it. Can you go through? Give me a bit of a descriptor.
If you spoke to Katrina about any single person in her back book, she knows them. She knows the family, she knows the story, she knows about them, she can tell you about them, she can have a conversation about them. She runs a very customer-centric business. Her team care, they're sort of a replica of her. They have a really great process set up. There's very little overt advertising, a lot of it's word of mouth, not unlike Wendy Higgins, who's been, was a broker for many years in Adelaide for Mortgage Choice. Really family orientated and driven, and just know their business inside out and know their customers inside out. I think another good person, to be fair, is Rogan Yates. And some people listening may know Rogan. I've known Rogan for many years. He and his team really do provide like a private bank level of care for their customers. They are super good at management of customers. And whenever I speak to Rogues about a customer, he just starts to rattle off all about them and when he last spoke to them and what their desires and dreams are. And he's built this business on repeat business because he looks after people. So, and there are tens of brokers like that you could name that just stand out for excelling in our industry, and they're not one-hit wonders. So they don't come in for 2 years and move on or sell a book. These guys have been doing it for a long time because they're significantly passionate about it.
And what would you say, is their work ethic? I mean, obviously I know Rogan. I can't think of Jeremy's second name, but Jeremy,
Fisher?
Jeremy Fisher, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good example. He's a Rogan Yates style broker. Been around a long time, extremely successful.
Yeah.
He knows all his clients as you would expect. Has a good little brand business. What do you say about their work ethic? When you observe their work ethic, is it like are they on it all the time? Are they always available, or do they work harder than the average person, or is it something more than just their work ethic? But maybe underline the work ethic anyway. What do you see their work ethic as?
Dynamic is a word I would use. I don't advocate for 23 hours a day working. I get that there needs to be a break, but if you're a business owner and you want to be successful and you want to back your customers in and do the right thing by them, you need to be available. You need to be available when they're available. And if they're working 9 to 5, they aren't going to be able to ring you if they're working in a factory or they're on the docks or whatever. You have to talk to them when they're available. And the brokers that get that and have that level of work ethic are successful. So, here at the moment, prior to the lockdown, I have customers come to me. I'm like, that's great. But the brokers that I see that are successful are still out there in the homes of consumers prior to the lockdowns, meeting with them or meeting them at a time and a place that suits them and making it about the customer, not about what works for the business. And I'm not saying that's for everyone, but what I'm saying is the level I see in the differential to broker success is that desire to be where they need to be when they need to be there to help that consumer.
It's interesting. I often say that we're all in the business of something, and if you want to be a successful broker, I think you've got to think of yourself as being in the business of brokering mortgages, as opposed to seeing yourself as a broker of mortgages. It's a bit like saying, I'm a really good barista and I can make coffee, or I am in the business of making coffee. In other words, I own the shop that delivers a coffee to customers. So I got to know how the machine works and how to make the coffee in an expert way. That's about honest. Like, and if I draw a line across to mortgage brokers, it means I know the products, I know how the products work, and you know, I know who the banks are, and I know who the BDMs are, and I can always ring up Aaron at Pepper if, you know, when the days when you were there or whatever. I know I have those relationships. Bit like in terms of my product, a bit like a barista knows where to order the coffee from, you know, what type of coffee beans he or she needs to have, what's the best coffee machine that works, you know, perfectly, blah, 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 you know, how to put a little heart on there, all that bullshit stuff that they put in their coffees these days. But a person in the business of making coffee, or a person in the business of doing home loans, is a lot different. That person, as you say, and I think this is where what you say is really important, that person understands the customer. The barista just makes the coffee. He doesn't have to understand the customer. He just hands the coffee over. But the person in the business of being a coffee maker, and the person in the business of being a mortgage broker, has to know everything about the customer. And that means, you know, these days we have databases which, you know, have all the information, should have all the information about the customer. But like Katrina Rowlands, like, for example, that those people know what time of day to ring my customer, that particular customer. They know about their customer's family. They don't have to consult a database. They know. Their database is in their head. So I think good brokers, good mortgage brokers, over time work out the difference between being a good mortgage broker and being in the business of mortgage broking. And there's a massive difference. And someone like Rogan, for example, or Jeremy Fisher, they're in business of doing this. And that means having the full spectrum of everything that works and doesn't work for their customer. And, you know, we've got to be customer centric. Our business is about, as mortgage brokers, our business is about being customer centric. It's all around the customer, because you know as well as I do, there's a lot of choices out there. There's a lot of brokers I can go and see. So you go, I mean, I guess you could reflect on the days when Aussie first kicked off, when my Wizard business kicked off, because if you're around 1999, around the 90s, late 90s at least, you will remember the introduction of, you know, us, Rams, and Aussie, what we did, and there were lots and lots of others too. I just mentioning three, and it was different, because we could then say in those days, or, you know, normally you go to a bank and you get your loan approved by a bank, and you know, but we're offering a different type of service. John had these mobile lenders, used to drive to your home and see you at your home. We set up a Wizard. We set up branches. You can come to our branch anytime. In those days, it was 6 days a week, and you can come at night if you want. You weren't stuck with the bank times 9 till 3. But today, but we're a bit different. We only had 20% of the market. Today, the mortgage broking industry has somewhere between 60 and some other number percentage of the market, all mortgages written. By definition, that means there must be a lot more brokers out there than there ever was during my early period in this game. And I understand from Peter White, who I interviewed this morning, is there something like 19,000 brokers out there. So there's a lot of competition. So how do I excel over and above my competitors? I mean, because I've got to do better than my competition. Otherwise, you know, my competition will find my borrower pretty easily. I can't leave a deal sitting on the shelf. I've got to get the deal done. If Aaron, what would you say from the moment I get an inquiry, or from the moment I suss out, here's someone I'm talking to who wants to buy, has an investment loan or needs to get refinanced because they're paying too much money, what is the first thing a broker has got to do? What, in your experience from seeing good brokers, what do they do? How do they nail it? How do they close it down and get it off the street?
I think they make that customer feel like they're the most important person they've spoken to that year. You know, it's really, and that's an art. That's easier said than done. If you've just come off the phone from Bank A and they've had your deal for 26 days and you've got a customer that's on you for the answer and the bank's delayed it, then you've got a fresh customer that's just hit your phones, you've got to be on to make that person feel super special. And in that person's mind, they're not thinking about the act of transacting a mortgage. The customer doesn't care about that. What they care about is they saw an open home, little Mary's picked the bedroom out, you know, the husband or the wife is driving this to make it happen, and this customer is now talking to you to make that dream a reality. And you've got to hold that dream and become part of it. And the best brokers become part of that dream and make it happen for that family and create that excitement and build that momentum around, that particular experience for that customer. It's not a transaction. And that's the difference. That's the 1%ers that make the difference. And there's good brokers out there that do this every single day because they get it. And I think that the ones that are struggling, if you're not busy at the moment as a broker, something's going on. And so, have a think about that, because it may be that you need to reflect on how you're approaching your customers, because you've got to just turn that magical experience into a reality for a customer.
It's quite interesting, and there is theatre involved. So, you've got to play the game, and I don't think you can get away with it by just acting. So, like, if you're listening to this and you think, I'll go and role play what Aaron just said, but that might work. It might work. You have to be a bloody good actor, but it might work. But really, I think I go right back to what Aaron said right at the beginning. You might be in the wrong game if you don't genuinely want to help people. And if you genuinely, really want to help someone get that dream or get that portfolio, whatever the dream is, their own home or a portfolio of properties, or just to get a holiday home or one investment property, it doesn't matter. But if you don't genuinely want to help them, then it's going to be very hard to act that out consistently every single day with every client. And if you do get it right on the flip side of it, then that client, make sure if you do generally get it, then make sure you show the client that you get it. Yeah. Don't feel as though I don't want to be too much over the top here. Mate, be part of that process for them. As Aaron just said, like, these people are dying to get the deal done, and they really want to own that house, and you've got to be part of that and open yourself up to it. And not only should you do what you just mentioned earlier about Katrina, knowing everything about the client, but then you've got to be part of everything that they do. And that means ringing them up, saying, look, I've been on to the bank, but it's in a delay because there's a line. Would you like to me apply to somebody else? Are you happy for me just to keep it in the line, in the queue? Is there anything you need? You got to just keep contacting them. And it's a bit like going to see doctors these days. Doctors never ring you up and tell you anything. You got to go back to them all the time. Well, we're in a professional industry today. We're regulated like professionals. We have to do professional development like professional people have to do. We have to do courses to qualify to be in this industry like professional people have to do. So let's play it like a professional. Let's be professional and do everything that is required of us. And it's not about satisfying the best interest duty and all those duties. It's not just about that. It's about actually doing these things to make your business better. And I think what Aaron's saying is particularly relevant today, because there's a lot more competition out there. And if you don't get your act together, someone's going to jump in and do it for you. Someone else will beat you to the game every time.
You can't fake it, like you say. You cannot fake it. I learned a really valuable lesson. I was down at the local cafe just down the road from my house, and I seen a broker down there, Robert Ward, Boggy Ward. Some people might know Boggy. And I said,
Boggy's a legend.
Yeah. I said, what are you up to? What are you doing here? And he said, catching up with a customer of mine. I said, oh, cool. You got a transaction on the go? He goes, no, just checking in, catching up with them, seeing if they're all. And I thought, he gets it, right? He's just catching up with someone, not because there's something in it for him, but he's just maintaining his customers. Like, he wants to build that relationship with it. And I learned a really valuable lesson that day. It's not all about always looking for a transaction or something when you speak to a customer. Sometimes it's just about saying hi and building the relationship, because it's super important to do that. And I think you made a very, very valid. You can't fake this. When I was in lending, I could see a BDM that really loved the industry or was just in it for the next row, and I could spot them a mile off. And I reckon a customer could spot the same with a broker.
And as a lender, would it be fair to say that you have a bias? This is human nature, but you would have a bias towards the individual who actually gets it, as opposed to the individual who's just in there for the transaction? 100%.
Like, I gravitate still to the people that get it. Like, I've been fortunate enough to, career-wise grow up in this industry. And I've been with people like the Frasers in Queensland. Like there's people everywhere that I gravitate to because they want to genuinely help people. They understand. Like I've always had a mantra: I'll say what I can do, and I'll be dead down the line if I can't. And I think people respect that because you're just clear with people, and they can be clear with their customer. And I think that I definitely gravitate, as do some colleagues and other lenders, to those brokers that truly believe in the art of customer service and helping people, get to a better position. I struggle with the transactional, one hit, park it and move on, or do the bare minimum to get the deal over the line, because to me it's not about getting the deal over the line. When you get into non-conforming lending, it was probably one of the best things I've done because it showed exactly the importance of what a broker does for a family. We had a customer that sent me a jar with a ribbon around it with 27 credit cards cut up that they'd taken out when the husband had cancer. He was cured, in remission and back. So they were back on. They got a non-conforming loan through the lender I was with a broker, and they sent 27 credit cards back with a ribbon around the jar, just to show, how their life has been transformed. And a broker did that because they got it and they took the time to not see a problem case, but someone that they could help. And I love those sort of brokers.
And just to wrap this up, Aaron, I want to ask you one question. If I'm a broker, and just if I could just lean on the experience of you at both Pepper and St George, for example, when you were a lender, what manner should I employ in my approach on behalf of my client to the lender? Because we all get frustrated with the lenders. I mean, time, questions they ask, blah blah blah, and you've got the client on the other end of the phone, sort of getting really anxious. What is the best approach to get the best outcome from the lender, do you think?
Well, I think to remember that the person you're probably speaking to is not the person that's making the decision on behalf of the customer. It's like if you're making a call to Qantas because they've buggered your seat allocation up, the person who's answered the phone does not allocate seats. And so just understand that when you ring, and before launching into your challenge that you're trying to solve, how's it going? How's your day? What's been happening? If you know them, like I have a good conversation, and then they'll say to me, right, I need your help with this, this, and this. And then it's for the lender to be honest about what they can do, and then give a timeline so that the broker can go back and not lose face in front of that customer. And I think that we sometimes go straight for the jugular because it's really important. And I just think the brokers that probably get it and get a better response from lenders understand the art of conversation before trying to get what they need to get.
I think that's really important, and I think it is a two-way conversation. The lender is always under pressure. I know because we have an underwriting team here at Yellow Brick Road, and they're always under pressure. And in terms of timing and just credit issues, etc. And we, as an organisation, would pressure on them as well. So it's a two-way conversation, and just stop for a second. They are humans on the other end of the phone. Just stop for a second and ask them, how you going? Even if it's just one or two little throwaway lines, just to break the ice a little bit. So it gives everybody an opportunity just to take a breath, and you catch more, bees with honey than you do with vinegar. Like at the end of the day, you got to, I don't mean suck up to them or sweet talk them and all that shit, but at least respectfully, be respectful for them, and maybe outline the issue. I like what you just said. Can you help me? That's a really good line. Can you help me with this? My client's just wanting to know where it's up to because they've got to settle in a month, in a week or 2 weeks, whatever. Or my client's really hassling, not my clients, my client's really getting concerned about this. What do we need to do to make sure that you've got everything you need? Those sorts of conversations. And it's just, again, it's part of the theatre, but there's no point showing anyone the whites of your eyes. So I really like that, Aaron. Can you help me? That's a big deal. If a lender's on the other end of the line, they're going to say, I'm helping people. I'm here to help you. So That's pretty cool. Aaron Milburn, we're running short of time. I've got another interview on after this. Mate, I really appreciate your time to pay forward what you know and have experienced to our broker community. It's important in our broker community to get to hear people like you, especially with a lot of experience around how the broker industry works. I think it's a great industry. I think it has a wonderful future, broking, whether you're just starting or you've been in it for a long time. It has a wonderful future. I spoke to Peter White. Regulatory-wise, yeah, you're going to get regulations, but at the end of the day, the more regulation gets, the more it increases your status. 'Cause it just means that we're regulating because you're important, and it's good to feel important and needed in an economy. So, Aaron Milburn, thanks very much. I'll talk to you soon, mate.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.